You're listening to 107.7 Music for Life. The conversation this morning is taking place on Brunch. Sharmain Baboolal is my co-host. I'm Rennie Bishop. The guest, of course, is the former mayor of Port of Spain, Louis Leasing.
The way you've said previously, the party is undemocratic, and if you're perceived to be part of a cabal concerning primarily casting out Manning demons, all of us are in trouble. Now, I don't want to take it just simply from the level of criticism that it's Rowley and Manning and stuff. Let's go back to 2010. And do we see it? Is there a sufficient group of people, a sufficient lobby within the PNM, which still believes, or what is it's coming down to asking you what is the Manning factor in the PNM at 2015, okay? Which still believes that was handled, and I would still say, as an independent, impartial observer, it was handled poorly, that a former prime minister was hounded out of Balizé House, and that it has impacted on the politics of the PNM until today.
I think the PNM has gone past Mr. Manning. I mean, Mr. Manning remains a statesman, and I have encouraged him. I speak to him pretty often. I have encouraged him to have a proper book written. I wrote my book because I didn't want anybody not to understand what I did while I was in office. And I have pleaded with him to have a proper book written about his time, because Mr. Manning, if you look at his contributions, he did a lot. Let me say to you, Dr. Williams was the prime minister and political leader for 25 unbroken years. Mr. Manning was the political leader for 24 years. People don't realize that. And he was prime minister for only 12 years. What did Mr. Manning achieve in 12 years versus 25 years? The scenarios may not be the same, but I want to deal with contributions. In a nutshell, as I see it, Dr. Williams really exploited the oil. Mr. Manning exploited the gas and built up on the gas industry. Dr. Williams gave free tertiary education and free secondary education. Mr. Manning gave free tertiary education, and in addition to that, he professionalized the vocational training programs of the country. He built the second university, the University of Trinidad and Tobago, wearing the skill sets that would not be treated with at all at UWI. And UWI needs to relook its programs, because in a sense, some of it is not relevant. They're sending out people to us who can't help us build a nation.
We see in that, maybe not articulated, but surely the fruits of what's going on in Barbados and Jamaica, where they are trying to get their people to go to encourage more universities because they are speaking of the same relevance issue with the university. Yes.
And then Mr. Manning, on the other hand, was the lone prime minister in terms of the promotion of a wide platform of social services programs. And, people say that Mr. Manning, the PNM don't do anything, or Mr. Manning didn't do anything for black people. I don't know this thing about black people, because I'll tell you something. From my own experiences in this country, and I have been the chairman of state enterprises, the people who come forward to capitalize on the opportunities that are available are not the African people. And, we need to say that to one another.
Say it and change it, yes.
You follow? And in a sense, when I had my 22 tongue meetings, of which Marlene McDonald only came to one, these were opportunities. I never promoted it in the media because I needed the opportunity to talk to those constituencies plainly, to talk to them about using their homes as economic space. You follow? I told them, I said, listen, how many doubles you think are being sold in the country on a daily basis? In the city? People couldn't guess. So when I told them on a weekly basis, hundreds of thousands of doubles are being sold. And then when I made the point to them, I said, and these doubles are being manufactured in kitchens just like yours. So why it is you are not making the doubles and selling and capitalizing on the city's trade? said, how many of you could make bacon fish? Everybody put up their hand. I said, so why the dickens when I want to eat a bacon fish, I'd have gone line up by Richards in Maracas to get it. I said, there was a time in Port of Spain I could tell you where every bacon fish vendor was.
Yes.
And the best of them used to sell under the green rum shop at the corner of Independence Square South and Henry Street.
Okay.
Rennie?
My mind went to the green corner, but okay.
Didn't give credit to Leo's, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I got mine at green corner, but
right, yeah. So I'm saying to you, but you don't see that.
That's the Eric Williams thing that you're talking about, that buy local, get
Yes.
involved, yeah.
And then I asked them, I said, how many of you could sew? Everybody could sew. How many of you have sewing machines? 3 people out of 90. The point is, there was a time, if you didn't make your own curtains, your neighbor would sew it for you, and you pay her something small. That is not now happening.
Yep.
So in a sense, I started to talk to them about people pooling resources, because as you know, I am Mr. Cooperator in the sense that, I did all this work with Eastern Credit Union and the cooperative movement. I tell people, if I had taken all those years and spent it looking after myself and my family, when you call rich men in this country, they say Tony Sabga and then Louis Lee Singh.
Yeah, but you did take time to speak. You did take time for your family, your extended family. You did.
No, but not as much as I should have. And so I'm saying to you, I am trying to get people to understand that the time has come to stop doing so.
Handouts.
You understand? I want people to start doing so. When you turn your hand like that is when you're giving.
But there's a national fracture. I mean, it's part of what you said here, and that's why I started and I grabbed in that statement of the Indo, the Afro, the Muslim, the this, the that, the other one. There is a national fracture. It must be repaired somehow.
Let me make the point.
I'm
because
sorry.
I was dealing with Mr. Manning. Forgive me. I digressed, and I do apologize.
And I followed you. Forgive me. Go ahead.
So that plethora of social programs, hype, must, my lot, the list went on. Sometimes I forget some of the programs he had running. But the people who these programs were targeting, they don't volunteer. They don't come forward. And that's the issue. That is why I make the strong case for compulsory national service. People who are not gainfully employed in work or study must be brought into a program of productivity for the country.
That's right.
And that is where, and people ask me, well, where I won't get the teachers from? We are sending home our best minds at 60 years. People at 60 years don't have children to worry about so that they can take on these burdens of responsibilities and do good work. And so there are issues to be addressed, which I fear neither party in this country that is now profiling themselves for office will be able to address.
At one point, I'd like to counter that, because at one point I have often been told of the industriousness, and Port of Spain was a black-owned city. Black businesses were flourishing and all of that, and I have been told, and it has been laid, and the people who would be saying these things at the hands of the PNM underdeveloped Port of Spain. It is where it is now because it was in the hands of the PNM. It is a PNM constituency. It is the PNM constituency we are talking about. So where there is failure, it falls at the hands of the PNM.
Well, you see, that is, if you take the position that the PNM is the father and all these African citizens are the children, I don't take that. I think it has something to do with what went on in the mines. And make no bones about it. We always had fatherless homes in East Port of Spain. That is still the case. If you go and ask the principal of Belmont Secondary, what percentage of the school children there have fathers, you will be shocked.
Yeah, but how did Port of Spain move from where it was a place where you had black businesses?
It was not only Port of Spain, I'll tell you. Sharmain, it was the entire Eastern Main Road going all the way up to Tunapuna.
Black businesses.
All through Lavantil, whether somebody was repairing refrigerators, whether they were cobblers, whether they were...
Barber, yes.
I remember, because I was always involved in doing woodwork, there's a man in Lavantil I used to go, he was the lone man, I don't know where he is now, sharpen saws. You go with your saw,
All right, but that was an economy that was never nurtured or strengthened. How,
No,
how did that fall through?
And I will say to you, it fell through largely because of the industry and the enterprise that was lacking in that group of people. I want to say it also. When the IDC came into being, it was there for everybody. When the DFC came in, it was there for everybody. Why is it? It appears that it was only one element in the society capitalized on the opportunities and made good at it.
As well as it was also reported by many people as a kind of free-for-all for handouts to people who were in politics, and it just didn't get to where it was supposed to get.
Well, my dear, if it didn't get there, how come all these enterprises all over South Central grew under that period and many of them grew from it?
Yes, this group you speak.
No, the reality is this, and I'll tell you this. As the chairman of the Small Business Development Company, I saw how one group responded as against how the other group responded. Next thing I want to address is the question of gaming in this country. Because I was the chairman of the National Lotteries Control Board. I think I was the longest serving chairman. I served for 8 unbroken years. And during that period, I worked with a prime minister who did not believe in gambling, in gaming, and for good reasons.
Yep, Atlantic City is a
And
good
so,
example.
as a chairman, I elected not to expand the games, not to add games. But what I merely did was to make efficient what we had. So I introduced a terminal optimization program. So people had to open the machines at a set time and close them at a set time. They had minimum quotas to perform weekly and things like that. But in addition to that, when the Prime Minister started to speak about getting rid of gaming, I asked for a meeting with the Policy Formulation Committee of the Cabinet because I didn't see there was any need to battle with Mr. Manning in public about that. And when we went to the Policy Formulation Committee, give me 1 minute to explain this because
Please.
it's important to the discussion. I said to him, Prime Minister, when you gave me this assignment X number of years ago, the NLCB was grossing $600 million. Would you like to guess what we are doing this year? He said, no, tell me. I said, well, we are going to do $1.7 billion. And that is without adding any games because I know you don't want gaming and so on and so forth.
60% increase, yes.
So I said, but I heard you say that you're going to close down gaming and I want you to know what you're getting yourself into. So he said, tell me. I said, well, we are doing $1.7 billion. But when I came to office, there were about 50 casinos. And now there are about 300 casinos in the country. So he said to me, so what they're doing? I said, Prime Minister, they're doing about $4 billion. So he said to me, so if we close down gaming, where would the money go? So my response was, I couldn't, I can't help but being me. I said, Prime Minister, the question answers itself. He said, what do you mean by that? I said, well, Prime Minister, if you close it down, if you feel you have turf war with the URP and the CPEP, it will go underground.
Yes, indeed.
And the gangs will become more powerful because they will inherit it. They will take over. They will buy bigger guns, more drugs, more prostitutes. They will arm themselves, bigger gangs, more soldiers, and they will contest the state. I said that to him. And it weren't 3 months later, we were hearing about the gangs in Mexico. You follow?
Which was our discussion this morning, indeed. Yes.
And so we had a plan. Well, after those, I had 2 meetings with the Policy Formulation Committee. He gave instructions that we would come up with a new thing. So we were going to set up a Gaming Commission of Trinidad and Tobago. And the Gaming Commission of Trinidad and Tobago had as its responsibility the regulation of the casino industry in this country. We prepared the act, the cabinet note, and the policy statement to guide it. We visited 7 jurisdictions to understand how to manage the gaming, and we set about to do set opening and closing hours so that we didn't have mothers after they drop their their children to school, while they, instead of going home and seeing about tending to the homes and what have you, they go to the casinos and then go and pick up the children. We had situations like that. No teller machines in the casinos, and that they would render to Caesar the things that were Caesar's. In a sense, all the one-armed bandits were going to be wired to a mainframe at the NLCB, to the Gaming Commission. And so if $1 drop in the machine, we knew that the taxman would get 40 cents and they would get 60 cents to manage the affairs, pay the bets, whatever.
Make your link for me, because I'm a little lost just for a moment. You attribute the gaming situation as one of the contributors to the non-participation of a certain sector of the community in opportunities. Am I clear? Is that what you were
I wasn't making that link, but I will make the link for you.
Please.
I will make the link. Our concern at that time in terms of regulating the casinos was that we saw that the bulk of people who were using the casinos were people who did not have the means to do it. You follow? And so we were going to put the brakes on that, which is to say, casinos could open at 6 in the evening and they must close at 2 in the night. So if you wanted to stay in the casino business, you had to be prepared to suffer the stringent controls. Those documents remained in the F&GP committee under Dr. Sate. For 2 years, the PNM came out of office and nothing was done with it. When the partnership came in, I am a patriot. I do have to be the chairman of a state enterprise to go and proffer advice and counsel. I knew Winston Dukaran before the politics. So I made an appointment to see him. I went to see him and I explained all that I've just shared with you. And Dukaran said, all right, I'll send some people to see you. He did send 2 people to see me. Philip Marshall, who is now the chairman of Caribbean Airlines, and the next doctor from the University of the West. He's a foreigner. I spent 2 hours with them, walking them through all the documents and what have you. I gave them all the documents, copies of all the documents. Nothing has been done on gaming in this country.
And it was not manifest in the legislation that passed through Parliament.
I haven't seen the legislation because that came like a thief in the night. For me.
Yeah, most of the senators didn't see it either.
But I gave them my documentation. And the truth is, unless we deal with things like that, we're going to continue to have much larger and more serious problems in some communities, namely the East-West Corridor.